Let's take it back, way back, back into time. And let me tell you about a shy girl from Hackney that went on to interview all of these interesting and famous people. My name's Haddy Folivi. I'm an international publicist, born and raised in good old Hackney, living in Peterborough. I was born and raised in Hackney to a lovely single mother, amazing woman. I mean, living in Hackney and growing up, it was a mad thing. Particularly like in the 80s, it was a juxtaposition, like with some really posh houses. And then you had like the streets. So a lot of local authority houses. I remember walking through like one particular corridor to get to my cousin's house, and it was dark and it was dingy. I mean, it was actually quite scary. It was the 80s. Crack cocaine was like really starting to come up then. And I could just remember smelling just like wafts. I mean, our parents, me and my brother, they really protected us from a lot of things, but you knew stuff was happening. So you knew that there was pockets of crime. Thankfully, it never came near us, but those streets taught you a lot of resilience. So started there, living with my mum. I, as a teenager, as you do, I just had a lot of teenage angst. I was really painfully shy, to be honest. So I started writing poetry as a way just to relieve some of that stress. And poetry, like writing poetry, just became a real love of writing. My mum loved to play Scrabble. She would always, like from a young age, would play Scrabble. And I think it was mum's influence playing Scrabble that really taught me and showed me the beauty of words. I became obsessed with words from a really young age. When I was around, again, 13, a lot happened at 13, there was a friend of mine at school and she mentioned she wanted to be a journalist. And I thought, oh, that sounds all right. So the seed was really sown from there. I looked into it and I thought, journalism seems like a really good career. You're with people, you know, you're, again, writing. So at the age of 20, little old me just wrote an article on a friend of mine and sent it into a paper asking for work experience. And they said, no, you can't do work experience for us, but you can come on as a freelance writer. So I was 20 years old, I was at university, I was living my dream. I was interviewing some of the hottest stars of the time, Usher, Drew Hill, Jagged Edge. I was going to party upon party and then getting to write about it. For me, I think at quite a young age, as much as I loved being a journalist, in my head, foresight, I thought this can't feed my children. I didn't have any children at the time, but it didn't, at that time, it didn't pay enough. And I think now we've got content creators that are really creating their own platforms and building their own followings. It wasn't really like that back then. So I used to interact with a lot of publicists and I really liked that side of it as well. So in between all of that, at some point I got a job at a local authority. I stuck it out for 5 years, but honestly, I was bored to tears. You know, when something is not your passion, I wanted to do work in the media. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Worked there for 5 years. Then when I had my daughter, when she was 1, I quit. And some people were like, are you crazy? Why are you going to quit? Like a full-time job, like, you know, a stable job. But I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to follow my passion. So I left. I started my publicity company 14 years ago. I had a 1-year-old, a mortgage, high expenses, no business experience. But I had belief in me and I had faith and I had a whole ton of faith. So I stepped out and literally I hit the ground running, so to speak. I got my first client within a matter of months or so. There's one client to this day, I'm still working with her. She started working with me 12 years ago. And one of the first things that I done was put her on stage with a former president of the United States of America. So I secured her a speaking gig. I won't name the president, but yeah, like for me, that was a big thing. And it basically just spiraled from there. Like, I got a lot of referrals through. I get a lot of referrals. A lot of people find out about my work through word of mouth. And for me, that is so precious because it shows that, you know, I'm not doing a bad job, I guess. For me, publicity is all about the results. And when I started to secure pieces in Forbes, that changed the game. Like, to date, I've secured over 40 pieces in Forbes. Now, Forbes is like one of the top business magazines in the world. And sometimes people come to me deliberately and they like say, can you get me into Forbes? And I'm like, it's not that easy. Like, I think when you do something consistently, you can almost make it seem easy, but every single client is different. And the reality is, not every client needs a Forbes, they need a Forbes in their industry. So 14 years later, I left London. I bought a house in Peterborough, which is where I am now. And that little PR company that some people did not believe in at all. I mean, I remember somebody saying to me, like just mocking, kind of, that little PR company, ha ha ha, I hope it can sustain you. It more than sustained me. I bought a 3-story house with that little PR company, and it takes care of me and my 2 kids. Some of my clients have used the publicity that we've generated for them to get book deals. Some have raised their rates. And for me, it's not just the publicity side. The publicity side is the outward thing that people see. I work with startups, I work with multi-millionaires, I work with some people that just totally blow my mind. But, you know, it's the publicity side, it's crisis management. I help to get them on stage and speaking engagements. One of the biggest achievements for me personally was getting flown out to St. Martin to do a keynote talk in front of the Prime Minister. Hey, little old me. I walked up to the stage and I was shaking, literally, but I thought in my mind, let me give this 5 minutes of my best. To be invited to do a keynote talk in front of a Prime Minister is no small feat. But in my opinion, let your results do the talking. You know, you don't need to say that you're the king of this or you're the queen of that. Let your results say that you are, rather than putting labels on you. Me, I'm happy being behind the scenes, but I let my results do the talking. Working with me is truth. Like, I really hate lies as a person, and to be honest, what you see is what you get. I've got clients in Dubai, I've worked with clients in St. Martin, I've worked with clients in Canada, Nigeria, Gambia. What you get is a real insight into your business. People often say that I'm like a mirror, and I show people and businesses who they really are, and I present them to the outside world. So I take you worldwide, baby. But as well as the publicity side, I've also helped people to secure King's Honours Awards, which is like an MBE. There's different tiers to the King's Honours, so there's MBEs, there's CBEs, but it is one of the biggest accolades that you can get, period. You know, to have the King's stamp as part of, you know, like for your personal branding, it says a lot, and I've helped a few people to get that. I've helped people to win awards, speaking engagements worldwide. So working with me, you get a real critical eye, but an eye that ultimately helps to boost your business. And like I said, it's not just the PR stuff, it's the messaging, it's crisis management, because the best way to prepare for a crisis is to mitigate against it. And that's by making sure that your systems, I always ask people, where's the body buried? Because as your publicist, I need to know that. I need to know if there's anything critical that might come up. We do a lot of that. But also, I ask my clients about their products and services, because there was one client that came to me. They thought that their specialism was in a particular area. But actually, I identified where their real skill was. They turned their business around. They've since turned over 6 figures from that business alone. I've helped a couple of business owners to get to 6 figures and beyond. I helped another business owner to triple their revenue within 3 months. So the publicity side, great, but I'm also a pretty dope consultant too. From as long as I can remember, I have been a storyteller. I've been telling stories since I was 13. In publicity and as a publicist, I tell stories. I take your story and I take it to the world and back. So if you do want to work with me to amplify your story, get in touch, haddyfolivi.co.uk.